We are live yet again. We are live. Here we are. Back for one more while I still can before I head off to work here. I thought, why not? I have the opportunity. Not really, like I said, I'm not really compelled. But I want to make good use of my time. So, here it go. I want to talk about information on this one. The Loonie Liberal Power Hour with your host, Lance Richards. Information edition. I think that this is very important in our atmosphere now, the environment that we find ourselves in, is that our information is very essential to where we go from here. We talk about truth and what's true, what's logical, what's reasonable, what's fair, what's honest. Your information needs to be credible. It needs to be fair and honest. It needs to be as close to the truth as you can muster. Now, it's tough to really explain to people why what they believe is not close to the truth. This is a tough thing to do. If you believe something, if you're passionate about your beliefs and you think that this information that you hold dear is something that you should hold on to and keep and be proud of and defend and promote, it's tough to get you to understand that, wait, maybe you're not completely right. It's an uphill battle. It's even hard to really explain what you're talking about. I tried to break it down in the beginning, your information in part one. You're not even informed on what a liberal and a conservative is. Your information in regards to these two terms are not true. They're not close to the truth like you should be. The information that you are gaining is riddled with misinformation, propaganda, lies, fabrications. They stretch the truth so far out that it stops being the truth, you see. They make one thing true that's not true, and that leads to another bunch of things that aren't true too. Like, for instance, I'll have to backtrack to part one of how Trump okey-doked you. The notion, the definition of liberal and conservative, how it applies. Their information in regards to that is misinformation. It's not true. They look at liberals like the bad guys, say you got TDS and you're a socialist, and they have misinformation in regards to what makes a liberal person liberal, what makes a conservative person conservative. To them, their information is basically that they're just opposing teams, that they're on the good side, so that must mean the liberals are the bad side. And that leads to more ignorance, more things that isn't true, that isn't proper information, that isn't credible, that isn't fair, that isn't honest. And these beliefs, this misinformation, this stuff that they believe that isn't the truth, leads them and makes them more susceptible to believing other things that aren't true. And this is where we find ourselves in the realm of information. Information is very important. That's why we have when we have the press and the news, first and foremost, we take it. We would hope that the people giving us information would hold that sacred. The people that are gathering, the journalists, the people that are writing about these things, the people that are talking about these things, we would hope that they would hold that duty righteously and hold it sacred and say, you know what? I'm going to try and make sure that I have as close to the truth as I could possibly have before I tell other people about it. We would, first step, hope that that's true. But we also have to hold them accountable for things that aren't the truth. We have to find a way to make sure that the information that we are getting is close to the truth. Now, how does this apply to where we're at right now? Well, I'll tell you. Because what happens is if you let one thing that's not be true seen as being true, if you say that it is absolutely true that all liberals are bad, if that becomes true, if that becomes a fact, then that's how we slowly become lost. If the people that can think are bad guys, it's an attack against intellectualism. It's attack against finding good information that's credible and honest and fair, finding the truth. It's an attack on truth, on information, credible, honest, fair information. And I can't overstress how important this is to us, folks. Because let's try to make it as clear as we can here. If we start pretending that 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore, where does that leave us? If it's okay to say, no, 2 plus 2 equals 7 now. How do we go forward better? We can't. Because now the truth isn't the truth anymore. The truth doesn't matter. You see, if people like Rush Limbaugh and Alex Jones and all these right-wing loudmouths are allowed to say that everything that they spew out of their mouth is truth, and then all these sheep behind them believe it, where does that leave us? That leaves us where we're at right now, really. Like, for instance, one of the first just utter lies, inconsistent, illogical, irrational facts that this presidency started with, this lame duck presidency started with, was they wanted to say that somehow Donald Trump was better suited to be the president than Hillary Clinton. First, he wanted to say that he was as good as Obama and could do better than Obama, and started questioning Obama's citizenship and loyalty and all that shit, okay? But let's put that to the side. This was Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And somehow, in some crazy, crazy way, the people were led to believe that punk-ass, stupid rich boy could ever, in a million years, be as capable in that position as Hillary Rodham Clinton. Let's look at the facts. Hillary Rodham Clinton is a lawyer. She was the first lady, was a secretary of state, was a senator. She has held every single position leading logically to the next position. She was eminently qualified, had been in the trenches, had done the work, knew exactly what she was fucking doing. But somehow, some way, people started to believe that Donald Trump was somehow better than her, would be better than her at that. Then they were led to believe that he not only was better than Hillary, he was the greatest of all time. Better than Washington, better than Lincoln, better than Kennedy. The best president of all time. That's how quickly it turned into complete and utter absurdity. Not only is he might be as good as Hillary to do this. Now all of a sudden, he's the best of all fucking time. He's the GOAT, right? That's what you want me to believe? See how quickly this ignorant snowball rolls downhill until it becomes just so absurd that it's just not even worthy of recognition or acknowledgement? But we had to. We had to acknowledge this bullshit because they were in charge. And you had to acknowledge the fact that they thought that their dictator was the best president ever. And you had to spit in the face of that bullshit. Because you couldn't let that bullshit fly. If you care about this country, you should not be able to let the fact that Donald Trump was the greatest president ever fly. You should not even utter them words, and you should not stand for somebody to utter them words. It's disgusting. I hope you realize that. How completely absurd that notion was. Let's talk about another completely absurd notion. The notion that America should be a Christian nation. Absurd. So far, far away from the truth that it's not even worthy of recognition or acknowledgement. To establish that as a fact is about as anti-American as you get. It's the first thing in the First Amendment. That's how un-American it is. But somehow you guys wanted to believe that it was the truth. So much so that it's in your right to take away a woman's autonomy, personal autonomy, in the name of your God. You wanted your religious notions to be true, to be the truth, to be a fact. Well, I hate to tell you, Sonny, but they ain't. Excuse me. It gets me queasy in my gut when I think that you honestly want everybody in America to be a Christian and to be ruled by your Christian notions, your conservative Christian notions. It's just absurd. It's crazy talk. Not in this country, guys. No. You're not allowed to pretend that's true. You're not allowed to pretend that that's a fact. You're not allowed to pretend that that's what we should do. Because it's not true. Another thing, and I don't know how this notion came back from the dead. I guess it's because it was never really dead. It was always lingering. It was always had a mask on and lingered. Insidious. And it's racism. When did it become okay to be a Nazi again? When did it become okay to be a Confederate? That's the truth. Is it? They're entitled to that heritage. No. You're entitled to hide that shit in your backwoods. You're entitled to hide a fucking Confederate flag in your basement. I don't want you bringing that shit into our town and waving that around and marching around with your fucking Confederate and Nazi flags. We already beat the shit out of them people because they were stupid like you. I don't want to see that shit. When did that become okay again? You got fucking Nazis and Confederates marching on our goddamn capitals, flying these flags and driving their trucks in there with their big guns into our fucking capitals. When did that become okay? That was never okay. And we beat them. And these things lead you to believe that a black man couldn't be president, a woman couldn't be president, Muslims shouldn't be senators. It leads you to be able to say that the other stupid things that you say. Just down outright racial, gender bias, misogyny, racism, elitism. And it all starts with allowing this one thing to be seen as okay, truth, fact. You're entitled to have them flags, but you're not entitled to march on our Capitol with those flags and your guns. You're not entitled to intimidate people with those notions or to influence them in any way with those conservative, got their dicks knocked in the dirt notions of slavery and white supremacy, because that's what those flags represent. That's the truth. That's a fact, Jack. And we can't pretend it otherwise anymore. We can't allow you to keep dipping your toe over the truth and pretending that this shit is gonna fly. That everybody should believe what you believe. It's disgusting. It's un-American. We've already been through this, folks. We've already been through that mess. And you're going so far now as you want to change history. He gets up there and lies so much, and people lie for him so much. Lies, propaganda, misinformation, just illogical, irrational rubbish that they throw at the wall, hoping it sticks. Just 4 years of it. And I haven't been watching lately. So I don't know, maybe he's still doing it, but I think people are starting to ignore him. And that's what we need to do. We need to ignore him. We need to let him serve out his lame duck time, drag his dirty ass on to fucking jail when he's done, and then put Smoking Joe in there and get to work. And that's what we're going to do. That's what's going to happen, because that's the truth. And that's a fact, Jack. We beat you. And I think you're going to find, that most people deep down inside can tell you what's true and what's not true. They'll tell you in their own subtle ways. It's subconscious in a lot of ways for people. Because you notice that those deplorables, they just want to intimidate and bully and lash out at people that don't believe what they believe, that don't like what they are saying. So they tell them they're full of shit. And then they play victim and, oh my God, they're outraged at well, I can have my opinion. Yeah, you can, but I can tell you you're full of shit. That's my right to tell you you're full of shit. And these deplorables don't understand that we should just ignore you. Okay? Until you're saying something that's logical and reasonable and thoughtful and honest and fair, we don't have to listen to you. That's like they asked Kamala about him running again in 2024, and she just started laughing, and everybody started laughing, and that's what we should do because that's what it is. It's laughable. Come on back in 4 years, and by then we're going to be back in order again. And you're going to be legitimately a shit stain on our old dirty underwear. That's what you're going to be. Let's establish that because of your faulty information, your misinformation, your ignorance has led you to be insignificant at this point in time when it comes to what you think we should do going here. I mean, you guys won't even wear masks to help people. What do we care what you think? You don't like Mexicans, you don't like Muslims, you don't like people that aren't Christian, you don't like people that don't bow to the flag. You think you're better than everybody else. So why should we care what you think? We've seen what you think and where it takes us. We know that we don't want it. So now you live in a good world again, not in your ugly, deplorable world. Now you live in a good world, and that's the truth too. That's good information. That's credible. That's honest. That's fair. See what I'm doing here? Now, this is the tough thing about information because let's take Trump out of the equation. Trump took us way off the right wing edge. But that's not to say that over the course of our history that our information hasn't been jaded, hasn't been shaded, hasn't been spoon-fed in a way that's good for the sheep. Our news tried to tell us what we needed to know. They didn't tell us everything because a lot of people can't handle everything. And you can see this now because people will latch onto some crazy fucking bullshit if you let everything out. If you just let people say whatever they want to say, people latch on to all kinds of stupid shit. So for a long time, we tried to keep a wraps on information. We also colored information in an American way, like Thanksgiving, like Christopher Columbus. These things were American history. And it means what it says, American history. This is how we tell the story. This is how we instill America into our children. And this is the story we tell. And yeah, there's nuggets of truth in there. But there's also some embellishment. There's also some propaganda and some lying. During war, the news is usually more close and tight knit. Like during Vietnam War, Korean War, World War II, World War One. Of course, news wasn't everywhere then. During the Gulf War, these things, we have to be careful how much information we let out loose for everyone. Because like I said, a lot of people can't handle the truth. A lot of people didn't want to know. and a lot of people couldn't comprehend even if they did know. So it's always been a tightrope act with information. But now we've went off the deep end. Now we let everything be the truth. And we let people spew all kinds of shit. And I think we need to get a handle on our information again. We have to find closer to the truth. We have to hold misinformation accountable. We have to hold propaganda and down outright lies accountable. If you're going to lie to my face, I'm going to tell you you're a liar. And this is why, and this is how you're a liar. We need to stand our ground when it comes to the information that is being spewed to a person, to a man, to a woman. Stand up and say, no, that's wrong. And this is why. And this is how. And if we don't start having that thoughtful dialogue again, if we don't try to be honest and fair and hold each other accountable again, because see, that's the big problem with America. That's one of our fatal flaws, is we want to blame everything on the government. But we are the government. We're supposed to be the government. But yet, when something goes wrong, we always want to blame the government and say, oh, it's the government's against us. Motherfucker, we are the government. That's the point of democracy. That's the point of what we were doing for the last 4 years, is that we were standing up and saying, no, you're wrong. And this is why, and this is how. Now, we should be evolved enough that we don't have to fight. We should be able to thoughtfully discuss, honestly discuss, and fairly discuss these things and come to terms with what the truth is. It shouldn't be so difficult, folks. It really shouldn't. We have all the tools at our disposal. We have language. We've acquired language. We have logic. We have reason. We have history. We have science. We have sociology and psychology. We have a pretty firm grip on the way things are at this point in our evolution. But we got to put all the pieces together right. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle that's just all fucked up right now. But we got to start putting the right pieces back in the right places again. And that starts with information. It starts with what we are hearing and what we're spewing and what we are thinking is true and factual. And we need to hold these things accountable. We need to put them under the microscope of logic and reason and see if it's true. We need to be honest and fair with ourselves so that we can honestly and fairly search for the truth, which is with as little bias and prejudice as we possibly can, which is hard. It's tough to be completely unbiased. It's tough to be completely unprejudiced. Those are tough. That's not going to be easy. That's going to be hard for some people. It's going to be really hard for others. But it's going to be a little bit hard for everyone to really be fair and honest with yourself. And then in turn, apply that honesty and fairness and being just for America, for future generations, for other people. It's really not as hard as all the cynics out there want you to believe. Oh, you ain't never going to change nothing, Lance. Why do you even do that? You ain't never going to change nothing. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I'd be a rich man. All the cynical, pessimistic, glass half empty kind of people out there. Oh, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say, Lance. It's not ever going to change. Why? Why isn't it going to change? Why can't we get better? Why can't we fight to understand? Why can't we fight for truth and logic and reason and love and justice, fairness and honesty? Why can't we fight for that? We can, but it starts with ourselves. It starts with asking yourself if you really are telling the truth, if you're really believing the truth. And I'll go back to reinforce these simple notions that should lead you in the right direction. First notion, you have to honestly ask yourself, do I truly believe that I am equal to everyone else? Do I think I'm better than black people or women or Mexicans or Muslims? Do I think I'm better than that woman who needs an abortion or that guy that needs a helping hand? Do I really think that I'm better than any of these people? You shouldn't. You should be endeavoring to lift these people up with you. If you do have this sense of superiority, if you do look at somebody and say, "Oh man, he don't have something I don't have that I have." Well, okay, try and help him get it then. How about that? Why is that so hard? And I think if everybody did that, we'd be in better shape. At least try. At least don't begrudge people things. Well, he can't have this because he's an immigrant. He can't have this because he's Mexican. He can't have this because he's a Muslim. He can't have this because he's a single female. He can't have this because, he's a hungry kid. He's a burden on our society. There's always an excuse and a justification to make people seem like they're less, unworthy. Who are you or anybody else to say who's unworthy of something? Do you really believe that you have a monopoly on the truth so much that you can be the judge and jury of who deserves what? Are you that righteous in yourself that you can judge others? I don't think I am. I don't think that I'm in any position to begrudge anyone anything. Why do you? I'm not even really begrudging you your ignorance. I'm just not swallowing it. I'm just not letting you feed it to me because I don't want to hear it. And I'll spit it back out, stomp on it. And this really all comes down, it does. That's the key. I think that's the key. I think I finally found the key. It's information. It's truth. From the very beginning, logic, reason, truth. Things that make sense. We take things that we know and we apply them. And we hold them accountable to the truth. And we've strayed far, far away from that, especially the last 4 years. The last 4 years have been off the charts with conspiracy theory and conjecture and inconsistency, illogical shit, irrational shit, highfalutin shit that doesn't make any sense. Trying to add apples to oranges. Just absurdity. Truckloads and truckloads of absurdity is what we've been buried in. And we need to filter all the bullshit out and get back to what's true again, folks. We have to get back to what's true. And I keep reinforcing it. The truths that we hold self-evident. We have to get back to the bread and butter, and the nitty gritty, and what makes us great. You guys want to get back to the way we used to be? Okay. This is how we do it. We do it by helping each other, by being there for each other, by sacrificing for each other, for making sure that everybody's equal and everybody's given life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and everyone's giving religious freedom, and everyone is given the freedom of information, and everyone is given the freedom to petition and assemble, to have their guns to protect themselves. We ensure that justice and the rule of law really prevail. That we keep the power separate. That we separate church and state. That we have checks and balances. These righteous notions that we know are true, that we know lead to truth, have to be important again. We have to stand up strong for these righteous notions. And we have to make sure that we don't stray from these righteous notions. Because when we do, we get all fucked up. And that's where we're at right now, guys. That is where we're at right now. All fucked up. But the light at the end of the tunnel has shone bright. And our way is lit now. We know what we have to do. We have people in there that know what they have to do. We have an overwhelming unity that has never been seen before. Yeah, sure, there was a lot of you guys, but there was a shit ton of us all over the place. Just as passionate. See, a lot of you deplorables, you're just like, well, I don't like him, but I got to vote for him. No. All of us, we were overwhelmingly, we don't like him, and this is why. Our voice is stronger than yours because our voice is rooted in truth. Our voice is rooted in good, logic, and reason. That's why our voice is stronger. That's why it was heard louder. Because we're rooted in truth. We're rooted in righteous notions that should be guiding us. Truth touched us all in some way that made him rub us the wrong way. And you guys are led by misinformation and ignorance. And that's what established, that needs to be established. That's what separates us. Is that we're rooted in the good stuff and you're not. We're rooted in the stuff that makes this country great. And you're not. Not right now. You might still have it in there. You probably do. If you come to terms with your fuck up and bring it back around town, and we'll probably find out that there's a great American in there still anyway. He just got led astray, bamboozled, run amok, dokey doked, which is okay. It happens from time to time. I won't begrudge you your mistake. Everybody makes them. But you got to admit and move on. The first step to recovery from a mistake is to admit that you made a motherfucking mistake. First, you got to admit it. You got to admit that you just got plumb okey doked. It's that simple, folks. It really is that simple. Be nice to people. Admit when you're wrong. These are things that we teach our kids. These are like things. Just be nice to people. Don't lie. Don't cheat. If you lose, say, hey, okay, I lost. I'll try better next time. You know, these are simple notions. Conservative notions that have stood the test of time. That parents have been telling their kids for generations that we just don't do as a country right now. Trump doesn't do as a man. So hence, neither does his party or his deplorables or his policies or his platform. It just all strays away from good things that we teach our children, that we should teach our children. It's just absurd. I'm still in awe. I really am. Yeah, I'm just a clusterfuck of crazy emotions and strength and all these things all wrap into one. I don't know what to think. I still don't know what to think about the last 4 years. What the fuck was that all about? And then I'm really excited about the fact that it is over, and we're gonna try and move back in a better direction. We get to Georgia with the 2 Georgia seats, and we're really going to get back into a better direction. But even without them, I think we will. I think once the adults get in charge, a lot of things are going to change, and they're going to change pretty quick. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of tantrum thrown and fighting and all that. And it's to be expected. But I think we're going to start steering this back in the right direction. And that's a good thing. So I'm full of hope and full of apprehension. It's a crazy place to be, but I'm used to it. So what to do? What to do is to start at square one. Start back at the beginning. And what is the beginning? America is a righteous, liberal notion of government of, for, and by the people. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and endowed with the God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's where it began. They shall be entitled to freedom of and from religion, a free press, petition, assembly. They should be entitled to these things and others. They should be entitled to justice under the law. They should be entitled to personal autonomy. They should be entitled to all these things. But yes, it has a price. And the price is that you have to be aware. You have to have a voice and make it strong. You can't be susceptible to ignorance and misinformation and cognitive dissonance. You have to get your brain wrapped around how important these notions are and how they apply. You have to sacrifice of yourself to make sure that these righteous notions are upheld, even if it hurts you. You have to make sure that these sacred righteous notions remain as righteous and as sacred as they possibly can be. That's your penance. That's what you owe America. Trust me, you're not going to have to sacrifice harder than anyone else has. Generations before you. You just got to start thinking hard. That's all we're asking you to do. Think hard. I keep coming back to this. Try hard to think. Let it rattle around up there. Make it hurt a little bit. Think about it. And trust me. I mean, there's another thing you could do. You could trust that I have best interests at heart. That I have everybody's best interest at heart. You should trust that I'm going to try to give you as close to the truth as I can find. If you give me something that's going to make me believe that what I'm saying is not true, I'm going to be thoughtful and honest and fair enough to say, okay, you know what? Let's think about this. Let's talk about this. Let's break this down further. Trust and know that I am going to go out of my way to look for the truth for all of us. Simple. This is all a lot more simple than we let it be sometimes. Because we're all passionate in our own way. We're all tenacious in our own way. We all are fragile and strong, and what a lovely beast we are. Human beings. Just a lovely beast. We are the fatal flaw of our grand experiment. And we have to be conscious of that and aware of that. And we have to endeavor to not let our lesser instincts get in the way of truth. Shield us from truth, block us from truth. We can't let greed and selfishness and ignorance and envy and gluttony and all these lesser instincts rule over truth. And that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years as a country. And we need to stop doing it. Like right now. Now's the time to completely stop doing it. And it starts with you deplorables. Now, that's what I had to say for now. It's not been quite an hour, but I'm pretty tapped out on this one. I think I said what I've needed to say. I don't feel the need to drive it home any further right at this point in time. You could always watch it again. Like I said, go back to part 1, part 2, part 3, and then there's been 2 more since then. But they didn't have the label of how Trump okey doked you. I just started rattling in these last 2 ones. So watch them again and then get back to me. Tell me what you think. so we can move forward and progress and look for truth again, establish truth again, make it credible and honest and fair, be righteous, be strong, stand tall for truth and justice and the American way. Remember that one? Truth, justice, and the American way. What happened to that phrase? I like that phrase. Didn't you like that phrase? I like that phrase. Dumbass out.